Hello and welcome. My name is Tristan Hun from the Association for Electronic Music. AFM is a global not-for-profit trade organisation for the electronic music industry, whose aim is to help everyone working in the industry thrive. One of our main areas of focus is mental health, where we provide help and advice to those of us who may be struggling. We hope this session will help you with your challenges and offer a little inspiration. For this AFM mental health session, we are fortunate to be joined by renowned DJ and producer, Yousef. Yousef, great to see you. How's it going?
I'm good, thanks, Tristan. Nice to see you, man, as always.
Likewise, always a pleasure, and thank you for joining us today to talk about this sort of most pressing of subjects, one that I know that's both close to both our hearts.
Absolutely, man.
Well, before we dive in, Jos, I heard that you had a call with Prince William the other day, and DJs and royalty don't often mix. Can you tell us a bit about
that? Yeah, I mean, it was unexpected. It was like a couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call one Thursday evening, 2 weeks ago today, probably, I think, from a guy called the Lord Lieutenant of Liverpool, and he's the guy that deals with royalty. And apparently, Kensington Palace had wanted to kind of identify someone to speak to in Liverpool about what's happening within the kind of difficulties with the event industry and the hospitality industry, and what's happening with people being left without support. And they identified me as someone that they would like to speak to. So yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, cool, let's do it. Never really thought it was real until I sat down in this very chair with these very headphones on, and he showed up on a Zoom call just like this, and myself and Natalie Haywood, from another business owner from Liverpool, just had a discussion, and it was designed to be very blunt about what's happening. The only protocol we were told was just give it to him. So we did, and he was very concerned, very helpful, and he definitely made us feel like he cared. And it brought an enormous amount of attention onto what I was trying to do, to bring support from the government level onto freelancers and people that are left behind within the events industry and even small business industry across the UK. And since then, has it helped? It's definitely brought more attention, and maybe it's greased up the wheels, but at the very least, it was a great experience.
That's wonderful, and amazing to hear that they pinpointed you to reach out to, and then obviously you've been using your position to sort of really help the industry more broadly.
Yeah, I mean, it was very much a surprise, but I think maybe because obviously I'm the DJ, the producer, the label owner, the event organizer. I'm 20 years deep into the industry. I like to think I'm well liked in terms of the ravers and the industry, in terms of like personal feelings, and maybe all those things combined. They just thought, okay, he's the man for the job. But nevertheless, he, like I say, he cared, and he did say when he comes to Liverpool, he would like to meet and discuss further. So we'll see.
Great to hear that our industry is getting that sort of support from that sort of level. That's remarkable.
It was unexpected.
Completely out of the blue, I guess. I think we'll come on to the subjects in a bit about sort of like jobs and the issues around mental health that the current pandemic's causing. But Prince William has obviously got a charity called Shout, which will provide the text number to you later on in the chat, and you can reach out and use that. And so I know that you've got quite a lot of experience around mental health, but would you mind sort of sharing with us a little bit more about your own personal experience?
Yeah, I mean, I made an album last year called Nine More Drive, and it was largely about my difficulties growing up. And it wasn't really until I really bedded deep into that album that I realized that the enormous amount of turbulences that I'd experienced. I've got no qualms in telling people that over the years, because of those difficulties, I've seeked out various kind of therapies, therapists, counselors, just to kind of relieve myself of what I call emotional residue. Now, emotional residue can kind of formulate in every part of your body as an ache. It can make sore elbows, knees. It can make you bedridden, all those things. But more often than not, it goes into your mind and kind of can make things a little bit, like I say, turbulent for yourself. And over the years, I've tried many things to relieve myself of anxiety. I suffered from anxiety a few years ago. It just came out of the blue. I didn't even know it was there after a trip to Mexico. And I was almost liberated for almost a year. I kind of got on with touring, but I wasn't myself. But eventually I found the one thing that sorted myself, not necessarily through personal therapy or counseling, it was acupuncture. That sorted that problem out for me. And it was really surprising because I'm not one of those people that I will sit down and kind of just accept that this is a new version of me. I want to get shut as soon as I can, and I will try everything with no limitations to improve myself. You know, unfortunately, there are so many options, particularly online these days, that are almost no money for the most part. So we're in a position where we can find support, even from your phone, instantly from when we're suffering. And things that I have helped personally is like the Calm charity in Liverpool, the campaign against living miserably, which I ran the London Marathon for them a couple of years ago. And again, even I was helping them and raising money for them. I was almost getting rid of my own emotional residue doing the race, committing to it, saying I'm going to do something and delivering it. I did something for in Liverpool for the homeless centre called the Whitechapel Homeless Centre, and sorry mate, I've got a bit of a cough. Again, it was to let go of my own emotional residue. And I do find that sometimes when you find the right therapeutic angle for yourself, it can just reopen the kind of your life from being black and white to colour. Right. I mean, I'm even having therapy at the moment. And again, I've got no qualms in talking about it because I found someone that is able to kind of get inside what I need. And if I had a broken toe or kind of an ailment in my neck, there'd be no issues in getting it fixed. Now, because of the difficulties I've experienced growing up, I feel that I've definitely got issues that I need to kind of resolve or at least come to terms with. So it's exactly what I'm doing. And I manage that through therapy at the moment, which is cool. I've always, in the past 10 years, ate well, more probably than that. I exercise regularly. I make sure that I do that from home every day, only 6 days a week. I don't really drink much, and I certainly don't take drugs. I used to years ago, but again, I was never a caner. I was more like a fun party guy. But all those things combined, little bits and pieces. It's not one thing. It's small pockets of lifestyle change that lead to balance. And that would always be my advice. It's not a quick fix for anything. You need to kind of have little bits and pieces in your changes in your life. You know, I always explain to my friends, my son used to have eczema. I used to have really bad eczema as well when I was growing up. And I try to explain to people how to kind of get rid of it. And it's not just cream. It's not just kind of making sure that they don't eat too much sugars or don't drink dairy, or maybe that they sleep better, or you don't use kind of chemical-based detergents. It's all little bits and pieces. And once you put it together as a package, you'll find that the eczema goes, and it works. Worked for me, worked for my son. So similarly, when you want to kind of, if you're having personal difficulties, whether it be like emotional imbalance, if you can manage to kind of change little bits and pieces, maybe less alcohol, definitely no drugs, clean food, and more sleep, and a social environment that's positive rather than draining. And if you have the opportunity, a therapy that suits your personal situation, then it will put you on the path to a more positive environment.
That's wonderful advice. And I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know that you're obviously doing all of those things because it's in the background. They see the successful artists that's in normal times performing at these amazing venues around the world, having successful releases. But actually the time and thought you've put into looking after yourself is pretty considerable. Like I've benefited from therapy as well, and I'm a massive advocate for it. I've experienced anxiety throughout my life, and I found it incredibly helpful for all of the reasons you've just said. But actually, what you're saying is that when we often look at people, don't we, and we think, oh well, they're doing really well, or they're in a good place and things. But there's often a lot of work, isn't there, that's gone on behind the scenes, like you're describing for yourself, to get to that place, and it's something that we should all be aware of.
Absolutely. And like you say, I don't see like therapy or anything like that as at all a taboo or anything to be stigmatized. Quite the opposite, in fact. I look at it as like exercise, as a positive benefit in my life, as something that I can add into my mix to give me the tools to be better. And I don't see it any other way. You know, for example, it's like practice. Just when I learned how to DJ or learned how to kind of produce or learn my events or any of those things, or learned how to be a better dad or a great dad, excellent dad, actually. It's all effort and practice to a greater good, you know, and it's just part of my lifestyle, and that's okay.
So you'd advise basically to anyone watching this that if they are maybe they're struggling with whatever their challenges might be, to actually go out there, look for one of the free online services to go out and if they can, find therapy.
Yes, absolutely. I would be, if you can find the energy, and I know it's difficult, of course, when you have those dark clouds, and I have to admit that my clouds were always very hidden. It's not kind of a walk around in a depressive state, because that's not my issue. Mine was kind of historic problems that were kind of coming out in bursts of anger or something like that, or being less motivated than I wanted to be. So it was very much hidden. So that's why I want to remove all that sludge out of my body. For other people, it's different, of course. Some people can't really get the motivation to get off the couch, and I understand that, and that leads to kind of poor food choices and poor social choices, and maybe even alcohol, and then drugs, and then, you know, you go lower and lower. I really understand. But what I'm trying to say is, if you do have the energy to kind of make a small choice, whether it just be go to bed early, maybe, or the other thing is people don't really kind of seem to acknowledge the connection between mood and food. And I've been saying this for years, that maybe in years to come, that there's going to be mood warnings on packets of food. Now, if you eat processed food, for example, or go to Chippy or have a dirty pizza and stuff, you need to accept that that's going to put your mood lower as well. So if you couple that with alcohol and then recreational drugs, and then try to kind of keep the walls from the door, it's going to be really hard. I mean, I would always say, I'm saying to my friend only this morning, actually, at the very least, if you have energy, just go for a walk. It will be the beginning to the next stage. Like, you know, okay, the steps might be like 1,000 steps long, and I don't want to call it a kind of cheesy cliche, but all you got to do is take the first one. And just if you can leave your phone at home as well. I know we all like to listen to music when we're out, but if you just go for a walk just round the block, or particularly if you get into nature, anywhere away from walls, and just have a look around, take some breaths, come home, and I guarantee that will be the start to something different.
Such good advice, and I think walking is such a powerful thing, and it's free. It's something we can all do, and even if you're in lockdown, wherever you might be around the world, actually that's something that, you know, we can do safely, can't we? We can don our masks and go out there, socially distance, have that walk, maybe even be in nature for a little while, away from digital communications like phones and things, and just and helps us to find that sort of that sense of peace. You've been talking about some great tips, and maybe we'll just come on to that in a second, but for those that might be watching that are experiencing you know, the issues around, you've been championing actually with Prince William around employment and government supporting and making sure that our community is supported in the right way. But for those artists and producers and people that maybe would normally be working or playing out who can't at the moment, what sort of advice have you got for them to help them through these times?
Yeah, it's very hard, you know, to kind of, because the reality is our self-esteem has been kind of sucked away. Now, a lot of the DJs and artists are so used to being literally on a platform, performing to hundreds of thousands of people, doing what they love for so long and meeting new people and all the excitement of it. So not only is our finances taken complete kick to almost like zero for many of us, almost including myself. Our self-esteem must have been rocked as well, because to go from experiencing a really high sense of exploring the world and life and meeting new people to being at home and not having any money, that is it's a lot for a lot of people. To give advice how to get out of it, it's really hard, because government support is up and down at best, unless you run a limited company. And even then, I'm on a limited company, and my level of furlough is so minute that it's always pointless. I'm literally living on savings. Again, all I would suggest is, in the real world, is try to strip back as much as you can. Strip back your outgoings at the moment. Keep things down to a real minimal level. And once you can kind of get your head into the reality of costs of living in the real world, then maybe go back to some of the advice that I mentioned earlier on and just go and explore the real world, because that is one thing that I really enjoyed in lockdown part 1. I was walking around the neighborhood, particularly really early in the morning when there's nobody around, and nobody around all day just by default. And without going all tree hugger on your ass, just looking at the clouds and the trees, and just taking in nature and just being a kid again, really kicking leaves down the street. And if you do have children, it comes with its own stresses, of course, because we have to provide, and especially as a man, it's ingrained into your DNA to provide for those guys, and not being able to, it's stressful beyond belief for a lot of people. I'm in a position now where I've had enough savings to get me through a period of time. And like I've mentioned, we got a grant at Circus, which has not arrived yet, but it's taking the pressure off me not having to pay our staff, because myself and my business partner, we're paying them out of our wages, our own pocket for the whole 8 months with no government support. So now that pressure is kind of eased off a bit, and I can think about myself a little bit more. But yeah, man, it's overall, it's a difficult time to be kind of dishing out advice, because everyone's having such a different experience of this.
Of course, and that's the thing. Everyone's experiences are very different, aren't they, in terms of what they're going through. But Yousef, thank you so much. It's brilliant advice there. And I think those ideas of like people simply going back to nature where they can do, reaching out to the services that are available to them. That's something that we can all take a lot from. And we'll be sharing all of the links, obviously, to the resources that we've spoken about today, and to other resources that people can access from wherever they might be around the world. Including the AFM's electronic music and mental health guide, which also has a whole load of very useful resources and links. But Yousef, I'd just like to say, thank you very much from us all at AFM, and that's been a wonderful set of advice. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, man, and keep up the good work, and really proud of you, man.
Much appreciated. Well, whoever you are, wherever you may be, just remember, you're not alone. Thank you. Brilliant. Okay.
So, okay, mate.